2020 is going to go down as the worst year ever for opioid deaths or overdose deaths in general in the United States. The numbers were already higher than 2019 before they even finished tallying. It's everywhere, including prison. Today I'm going to tell you 3 things you need to know about addiction in prison. Let's get into it. K-Rugs, anyone new here? I am sober, in recovery, heroin, coke, everything you name it. Also did time in prison due to my addiction, New York State prison. And remember, Soberdogs does not promote or condone any drug use. Please seek professional medical help if you have an addiction. Addiction in prison. 3 things you need to know. Number 1, just because somebody got arrested does not mean their addiction stops or they're staying sober or they're gonna be sober. That one is a hard one, sad truth, sad reality, especially for parents. I cannot tell you how many parents I've talked to who were relieved that their child was in prison or jail, mine included, because they were like, well, at least they're not on the street. At least they're not overdosing. At least this and that. To an extent, yes, but anything that could happen on the street can happen in jail. Many of the places I was at, there was just as much drugs in there. I had the same ability to get drugs in there as I did on the street. Anything can happen. I was with the gentleman who was on the end of a 20-year bid. Asked him the day before he was walking out what he was going to do, and he said, well, I've been sober the whole time. I might as well, stay and do good things. Not even a week later, he was back. Now, the reason he was sober most of the time he was in there is he didn't have money to buy drugs. He had no family, had no friends. But it doesn't matter how long you take somebody out of their element, out of addiction, out of whatever. If it doesn't get treated, they're going to go right back. This guy was a perfect example. You can throw him in prison for 20 years. Fine, he didn't use because he didn't have access, because he didn't have the money. But the second he got out and he could get high, he did, because he didn't treat it the whole time. He didn't do anything to find out what was causing his addiction. Why? Number 2, where there's a demand, there will be a supply. The interview I did with BL, put a card up if you guys missed it. He makes a comment in there.
At any given time, there's more drugs in certain facilities than there are in comparable housing projects, in parts of the country.
There is comparable drugs, the amount of drugs in prison as there are in certain housing projects in New York. That is not an exaggeration. Certain prisons, there is literally equivalent amount of drugs as there are in a certain block or project in any given city. Prisons like Sing Sing, you have your choice of drugs. Everything from designer, ecstasy, K2, all the way through your weed, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, different painkillers, pharmaceuticals. It's insanity. It's supposed to be rehabilitation and the secure place where, people get searched and cameras and fences and guards and dogs and all that. All of that is irrelevant where you bring humans into the picture. Guards are going to do crooked stuff to make money. Inmates are going to do crooked stuff to bring drugs in and make money. Inmates are going to do crooked stuff to get high. There's always a way, and they always do it. So, I've said this in past videos. I spent more than 50% of my time in prison under the influence of some drug. It was available. It was there. Tons of it. Tons of everything. So, there's always drugs behind bars. And number 3, the big one, the most important one. Deaths and overdoses happen way more than we think behind bars. People overdose, people die Groups of people overdose in jails and prisons, and it gets downplayed in the media so much for multiple reasons. The most, kind of obvious and notable reason is the media doesn't have access. So, for example, a certain prison I was at, multiple guys OD'd. A guy got a package in. It was pretty much pure fentanyl. He didn't know that. He sold a bunch of the bags, and there was 11 guys that overdosed in a period of 48 hours. One died, 10 were Narcaned and brought back. The media comes to the front of the prison because they want to get some type of, they want their story. They want to know what's going on. First of all, how did the media find out so quick is a question people ask. I would say one of two ways. Number one, some guy told his family on a phone call, and the family called the media or the prison system or something and made a stir about it. Number two, a crooked guard alerted the media, and they pay him a couple bucks quietly. He makes a couple bucks. They come to the front of the jail, ask questions, and nobody knows how the info got out. But so they come there, but that's it. The jail blocks them. You guys aren't coming in. They give them a certain amount of info to appease them, but they can't come in like a normal crime scene on the street where they can get right there. They're asking questions. They're seeing things. They're interviewing everybody. They're not allowed in to interview inmates. They're not interviewing guards. They're not even getting past the front door. So they can't really get all this info. Also, it's downplayed because it makes the guards in the prison look very incompetent. So they downplay it. When that specific incident happened, you could see that there was a lot of tension because the guards, like on the visit floor, were, checking everything and all that. And not because they're like, oh, we got to be on top of our game now. More like they got someone above them breathing down their ass saying, how the hell did all this stuff get in? So now they don't want someone breathing down their neck, so they're breathing down our neck. And they don't want it to get out that, oh, there's just drugs running rampant in our prison. We have no control. So they downplay it no matter what happens. They, if it's one or two guys that overdose and they don't die, many times it won't even go down as an overdose. They'll say medical problems. They'll say, seizures, things like that, and just keep it quiet and downplay it. But those are three things that I think everyone needs to know about addiction in prison, because it's not talked about, it's very quiet, and it's not being treated. We need to treat addiction in prison, in jail, wherever, so that when these individuals are being released, they are better citizens, members of the community. It benefits everybody. It literally helps everybody at every level if we treat addiction better in jails and prisons. Hey, if you want to hear more about overdosing in prison, check out that video. I'm going to put a card up. That'll give you more details on it. This stuff happens all the time. Okay, Ruggs the Sober Dog, and I'm out. See ya.